This week we were reading the story Koalaloo, and it made me think maybe we should learn some information about some real koalas because they're very interesting. And so I have for you today a book about koalas. This book is written by Deanna Jump and Dee Dee Wills. And we noticed that, look, they've used photographs. So this is real information about real koalas. This is not a fiction book. It's not just a make-believe story. It's non-fiction, real facts. So I want you to listen as I read you this story about koalas. So here we see the cover of our book, and we see a really cute little koala on there. And then the next thing I see is our table of contents. A table of contents, remember, contents are just what's inside something. So this just tells us what's inside this book. We see it's going to tell us what are they on page 1. Koala babies on page 2. Where do they live on page 4. Habitat, sweet habitat on page 5. What do they eat on page 6. Getting around on page 7, and our glossary will be on page 8. So let's dive into this book and see what we can learn new about koalas today. What are they? Koalas look a lot like teddy bears, but they aren't bears at all. They belong to a group of mammals called marsupials. Ooh, now we just heard they were mammals. Remember what mammals are. Mammals are babies that are born alive, not from an egg and hatch. They're born alive. They have fur. They drink milk from their mother. So those make them a mammals. But this says this was a special group of mammals called marsupials. And look right here. It shows us another animal that's a marsupial. A kangaroo is a marsupial also. We'll wonder what marsupial means. Let's see if we can find out. Let's look on this next page. Koala babies. A baby koala is called a joey. When a joey is born, it doesn't have any hair and it can't see. Look at this newborn koala. Let me zoom in there for you. Look at that. It has no hair. It can't see. Look at what it says. A newborn koala is the same size as a jelly bean. Think about a little tiny jelly bean. And that koala, that baby, is the same size. So it is tiny when it's born. The joey stays in its mother's pouch for about 6 months. It drinks milk and it gets bigger and grows fur. And look, there's the little baby's face right down there sticking out of its mother's pouch. So a marsupial is an animal that has a pouch, and when the baby is born, it's teeny, teeny, tiny, and it crawls into the pouch and it stays there and it grows. On our next page, let's see about it. It says joeys ride on their mother's back until they're strong enough to climb on trees and on their own. So look, there it's on its mother's back until it's big enough. Let's see if I can zoom that in for you. Until it's big enough to hang on to the tree by itself. It just stays on its mother's back. Now, where do they live? Let's find out where they live. Koalas live in Australia. They live in a small area of about 100 trees. This is called a territory. Male koalas, male means what? The boys. Male koalas have a scent patch on their chest. They rub it on trees to mark their territory. Look at this koala. See if you can kind of see that patch on his chest there. So the boy koala, the male, rubs that on the tree to leave his scent, to let everybody know that's his tree, marking his territory. All right, let's go to the next page. Habitat, sweet habitat. Koalas spend most of their time in the trees. This is their habitat. They spend about 18 hours a day sleeping in the trees. Can you believe that? They're sleeping that many hours. They're sleeping like almost as much as we're awake. They're sleeping so much. Look at all these different ones sleeping in the tree. What do they eat? Koalas spend about 5 hours a day eating. Wow, so if they're not sleeping, they're eating. They eat eucalyptus leaves from the trees they live in. So that is a special plant, a special tree that they eat. And look, we've got a fun fact at the bottom. It says koalas don't need to drink water. They get all the water they need from the eucalyptus leaves. Wow. Can you imagine not drinking any water? All they do is eat leaves and they get their water out of their leaves. That's amazing. Getting around. Koalas move slowly through the trees. They use their strong legs and paws to climb trees. Their claws help them grip the tree trunk. Koalas jump from tree to tree. Wow, isn't that cool? Look how that one's jumping over to another tree. So cool. So many things that I didn't know about koalas. Look at those claws that help them hang on to the tree. Now, we have a glossary at the end of our story here, and a glossary tells us words that are important words for us to learn. And let's look at the important words that we learned in this story. The first one I see is mammal. A mammal is an animal that has fur and is warm-blooded. We've learned that one. Here's a new word we learned, marsupial. Marsupial is a mammal that carries its babies in a patch. Territory. A territory is an area where a group of animals travel and live. Did you hear what that said about those koalas? They live in only this one special area when there's about 100 trees, and that's where they live. Habitat. An animal's home. So we saw that their home was in the tree. That was their habitat. And we learned what kind of tree, eucalyptus tree, that they like to eat their leaves from. I hope you learned some new things about koalas today from our story. I know I did. I thought it was very interesting how they don't drink water. They just eat leaves, how they sleep so much, and how they jump from tree to tree. And, you know, we always say koala bear, but they're not bears at all. They're a different kind of animal called a marsupial. That was very interesting to learn. Today you're going to write me 3 things about koalas. I hope they're things that you learned new, something that you didn't already know. But if you already had studied about koalas and you knew those, then just write me 3 facts that you know about koalas.